Coming to you from Music City, Nashville, Tennessee, this is the Quinn Spinn. Hey now, and welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all, to a brand new edition of... Short one for you today, the Quinn Spinn. I'm your host, Quinn. I'm back here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Stitcher, YouTube, and more for another rousing and riveting installment of the official podcast of Underground Music Collective. And you just heard Revel 9's All I Become at the top of the show. That's been our opening theme song here at the Quinn Spinn since the great year of 2014, and it will be until the very end of days. And year 10 overdrive continues here at the Quinn Spinn with this incredible conversation with Sacha Walton, who is the founder of SWI Management Group. And Sacha has so much experience as an entrepreneur, of course, in the music industry. And this conversation, just listening back to it, it's hard to pick out, what I'm going to use for clips because there's so much good stuff. I don't want to leave any good ones out. You know how we share our clips on social media, of the episodes. Like, there's so many highlights here. It's just hard to pick out which ones we're going to start with. It's such a valuable conversation, exactly the type of value we want to provide you as independent creatives here at the Quinn Spinn. I mean, we talk about navigating the music industry as an entrepreneur, which you all are. If you're an independent musician, you also run your own business, as well as making sure you are taking care of yourself. We talk about Sacha's work as an author, her work in business, the music industry. We learn a lot here. There's a lot to cover. I'm so excited to share this with you. Incredible stuff coming your way right now. All right, everybody. As I mentioned in the introduction to the show, I am joined today by Sacha Walton, who is an entrepreneur, author, just has so many insights into the entertainment industry, into the music industry. She's got a couple books out. We're going to talk about both of those, including Beyond the Music, a music artist entrepreneur guide, which is available on Amazon and other retailers. Sacha, first of all, thanks for coming on here today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. We've got a lot to cover, the books, some other upcoming projects on the horizon, including one that we're doing here at UMC. Mm-hmm. But before we do that, let's learn about you a little bit. And we'll start off with the three standard questions that I ask every guest to the show, new or returning. Those three questions are: who are you? What are your passions? And why on earth would you want to come on the Quinn Spinn?
Oh, wow. So who am I? That is a very good question. I am a Jill of all trades. I am a mom. I'm a business owner. I'm an author, podcast host, speaker, event producer. The list goes on and on and on, but I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. I love helping people, seeing them in their purpose. And I think that helps to drive me in everything that I'm doing now. I like to say that I am bit of a unicorn when it comes to it. And I love it. And why I want to come on the Quinn, I want to hang out with you.
Of course. That's
we got to talk these things. So we got to, I love hanging out with you here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a great conversation. Of course, so much to cover, so many insights. And again, appreciate you coming on and spending your time with us here today. So let's get to know you a little bit more. Let's go back as far as we want to go, maybe even all the way to the beginning. I want to know, some of the people, places, formative experiences that really encouraged you toward a path of creativity, toward entrepreneurship, toward this whole world, this ecosystem that you've created.
Oh, wow. Okay. So in going back, I will be dating myself. We start with saying that disclaimer. But for me, it all started in 1998. Yeah, going way back there. And that was my first, I would say, action step towards entrepreneurship. I've always had that business mindset, but never stepped into it. Had an opportunity to produce an event back then. And from there, I volunteered for it. And from there, it was just like, oh, I like this thing. So, going into the creativity of it, as well as entrepreneurship was the thing. But also, along with that, I ended up managing music artists. So when I was actually putting on these events and booking artists and speakers for it, I had somebody to come up to me and say, hey, you do a good job with this. Do you mind helping me? And we went from booking that artist to actually management, because of my business savvy mindset and everything that's there. And from there, I just kept going on. Always evolving. I was just pretty much myself. I didn't have a company name at the time. It was just Sasha, just out there doing the work. I did form a production company at the time. This is my first time actually talking about this in a long time. It was called 7-8 Productions. That's what I had all my music artists under. And I evolved that into SWI Management Group. And have like the business side with the event production. I help other businesses with strategic planning and business development. And then I was managing artists as well. And that's how I kind of got to where I am now and kind of, merged me up into a big gumbo type of vibe that I have with everything I have going on. And yeah, and I'm just still thriving and evolving and growing in the space even today.
Yeah, and so much of the creative space and the entrepreneur space is interconnected. People of different disciplines, of course, come in and out of the music industry, in and out of each other's industries. When you're talking music, film, anything visual, like there's so much, intertwining that takes place here. And we start to see that, right? We start to see
Yeah.
our roles start to shift just as you did. You started, working on events and then follow that trail into management, and I've experienced that a
Mhm.
bit myself where it's like, all right, yeah, I'll do your social media, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, what else can you do? And it's like,
Exactly.
when you're good at one thing, the people you work with want to know what else you're good at, and
Mhm.
it's amazing, to kind of see what evolves just from, diving in that first time. Now,
Yeah.
for you, I mean, why music in particular? Like what draws you to working with musicians, trying to empower and uplift them in their careers?
Yeah. So I was once an aspiring music artist myself. And when I was in my early years, teenage years, I wanted to be the rapper. And that was my goal. I wanted to be a rapper. I wanted to get out there and do things. And like I said, once again, I'm dating myself. That was in the days of like KRS One was out with Boogie Down Productions and everything. And in fact, I actually rapped for them. And so it was like a lot of things being 13, 14 years old, in that space. And I kept it going up until my early 20s. And in doing that, I eventually transitioned over into that was like my first bout at management. I had an artist where I was actually, with the producers doing everything, but I stepped back because I went to help out another artist. So this was before even the other artists asked me during the time of managing events. And so I was like, okay, cool, I'll put you on. And I started helping him out with connecting with producers and everything. And then when that second person asked me to help them later on, like a few years later, that's why I said, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do this thing because I had the knowledge, I had the background in it, with being an aspiring artist myself. And I took all of that along with my business savvy self and I just merged it all together. So with that love of music, the love of artistry and that creativity, I just went on ahead. Plus, I have like people in my family that's musically inclined, and it's always that too. So,
Mhm. And so it's gone even further. You wrote a book to
yeah.
help artists start to see themselves more as entrepreneurs. It's titled Beyond the Music, a music artist entrepreneur guide, as we mentioned at the top of the interview, and
Mhm.
available on Amazon, other retailers. And what I love is that, it gives this blueprint to musicians looking to build a career. It's so important because I mean, I know this, starting this show almost 10 years ago, like you just kind of like expect it to happen when you're starting on the journey. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like you think like, oh, I'll just do this 6 months. Someone will discover me and, I'll live happily ever after. Not the case. There's a lot of work that needs to go into it. If you're a musician, there's so much that needs to go into it beyond writing, recording, performing. Overnight success is a lie that has been told throughout the generations.
Mhm.
And so very important, to help artists have this holistic understanding of like, hey, you're not just a musician, especially not in this day and age.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just, from your perspective, what are some of the key takeaways? If somebody's interested in picking up the book and learning more, what are some of the key takeaways for them to look out for and that you'd like to share with the
Yeah.
artists?
Yeah. I would say my favorite chapter in the book is a label frame of mind. And when we think about today's artists, indie artists, the labels is they're still here, but independent music artists have so much power in this generation, in this day and age, to manage their business. And one of the things I always found when I worked with artists in the past was they were so busy thinking about the creation that they failed at the process of it. And the process of it does include business. And a lot of times when you go into the music industry as an artist, if you're not educated, then you have the tendency of getting caught up in contracts that you don't want to get caught up in. You have the tendency of spending money that you don't know that you really don't have until they take all the expenses out. So those are like the two top things that you hear people go on about these issues over years, that people have actually, including mainstream artists, get involved in that too. But when you are educated, there's a quote in the book that says, an educated artist creates leverage. When you're educated in the area of business and entrepreneurship, it helps you to navigate that music business process a lot better. Even if you have a manager, even if you have somebody around, you have an entertainment lawyer, but it's always good to know this yourself, because there are instances where business managers are not all on the up and up, and they take advantage of you as well. And so, and accountants and all that stuff. But in the label frame of mind, in that chapter, it talks about how you are already a label in itself. You as an indie artist, you're doing all the work. You know, you're already your own A&R. You are, some people are actually producing their own beats. You got to go into studio time. You got to find a producer. You're going to find like all this stuff you're doing, marketing, branding, everything. You're doing everything a label actually does. The only difference is they have the capital and the human capital that most independent artists don't have. So I would say the takeaway from that is, really just shift your mindset and thinking like a label, and then break it down and build your team and according to that, and grow your business within the music business. But yeah, that chapter is definitely the one you want to get the book for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's super important, for artists to keep in mind, like the more business savvy you are going into these relationships, the more you'll know what to look for and the more you'll know what good is, right? Because the last thing you want to do is just like give somebody all the keys to the kingdom, because especially if you haven't worked with them before, and especially if you're new to this, because like you don't know if they're actually going to do right by you, do the right thing, and find you the opportunities that you want. Like I find, the best artist manager relationship is a collaborative one, because the artist has a say in the direction of things, and of course, especially how the money's getting spent, that kind of thing. But there's guidance there and insight that's coming in from somebody who has that management experience. It's a collaborate, it's a partnership, is what it is. It's not like, okay, yeah, you do all that work, and I'm just going to go over here and write songs. Like there's gotta be involvement, investment mutually there. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, definitely do. And especially with and I'll use this as an example because you have some artists out here that really don't like social media. And that collaborative effort really does come in. So even if you have your business manager handling a lot of the stuff, but when it comes down to you handling your own, your social media, it's better for you to do it. So I've seen some artists like, you know what, I don't want to do that part, but you have to. And sometimes that can hold you back. So a lot of the creativity that artists have can create that limitations as well in their thinking of how far they're going to go. So a collaborative effort is perfect. I always love to work with artists who are hands-on like that, because I'm like, okay, well, in that case, it gives me an opportunity for me not to only help you manage your business, but also to teach you. So when our contract ends and you decide to go somewhere else, or I'm not going to renew it, or however it goes, at least you'll be educated to know how you want to handle yourself going forward.
Yeah. And as a manager too, like you get to feel like the artist is bought into what they're trying to build,
Yeah.
and that they understand what they're trying to build. And again, it's not as simple. Like anybody can be talented. Anybody can write songs, record songs, perform songs. Right. But it takes that mindset of what makes this project something that people are going to latch onto, what makes this something that's going to connect to people, and figuring out how to communicate that. And to your point about social media too, I love that, because it's like, there's no point in resisting the technology, and, I myself am a little hesitant to dive into TikTok because of the time commitment that it takes, but like, I understand that that's something that needs to happen. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's one of those things that like, if you just say, oh, well, I don't want to promote my music that way, or I don't want to be on these streaming services, I'm just going to sell CDs, like good luck, because in this day and age, Well, yeah, you've got to play the game that's in front of you. You'd be better off having vinyls produced, but the vinyls are so expensive. You
Yeah.
drop a lot of money on that. So
Mhm.
there's really no point in resisting the tools that are out there to help you. And looking at them, I think, as marketing tools as well, I
Yeah,
think is a
absolutely.
good mindset to have. Not as something that's going to help you make it, like by itself, but as something that's going to help feed that, you know, just feed that momentum, as you
Yeah.
continue to create.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that part when you're saying about the marketing tools. Because when you're thinking like a business owner in this space, then you'll look at everything being an asset towards the business. So it's not like just, oh, I go on social media and I do my thing. No, that's a marketing tool. If you're going to be on the streaming platforms like Spotify, for instance, they have a very good artist platform. Like you could just sign up and manage that whole background.
Mhm.
And that's a marketing opportunity. It helps to broaden your scope. So when you're thinking in that perspective, you look at things a lot differently versus just being an artist going out and say, oh, I ain't created my music. I just released it. I uploaded it. I'm going to do some social media and then hope that everything else is going to fall in place. And
Right.
that's not it. You have to do the work. And when you do the work, thinking as a business owner,
Mhm.
that's really what you are. Your music is your product and you're providing a service on top of that. So when you're looking at it from that perspective, then you go into knowing that, okay, this is going to help me connect this dot and it's going to help me drive this further, or I'm going to get this, over here and I could get that. So when you're looking at it from that perspective, then you can help grow yourself a lot better versus being an artist that just keep on putting out music every time and not going anywhere,
Yeah.
so it helps to drive your growth.
Absolutely. And I love your point about Spotify too, because as an artist platform, the tools that you have at your
Mhm.
disposal are great. Now, I will say, yeah, it'd be great if Spotify did pay more per stream. That's something that people lament. But if you're just looking at Spotify as, something that's going to pay you, you're approaching it the wrong way. You need to look at it holistically. It's a marketing tool. It's a way to get your music out there. It's somewhere you can point people. Most people, who are tech savvy have Spotify or Apple Music at this point and can go check out your
Mhm.
music there.
Mhm.
It's not something that, unless you're like on a level of like a Taylor Swift or a major artist who's getting tons of streams every day, that's gonna, be able to be your standalone income source. You're not going to make a living off of it, but you can use that tool and you can use that to bring people in to then make other decisions, purchase decisions as far as merchandise, as far as donation, ways to support you, as far as buying a ticket to the live show when you're rolling through. It's a marketing tool just like any social platform. And yeah, the royalties aren't what they should be, but that's really only just one tiny part of it, I think.
It is. It definitely is because you have all these other opportunities to get royalties if you have your proper registrations.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta have that part. And so that's the other thing. So when you're thinking like a business owner, you're going to make sure you put everything in place. So just like as a normal business owner, you already know you want to get your EIN, you got to get your LLC, you got to get this. Now, for a music artist, you still need all those things. In addition to how are you going to make sure your money comes back to you? You do all the proper registrations, you do your BMI, you do your ASCAP, whatever it is. You do all those things and it helps to drive everything back because in this day and age, you're not going to make money the way you used to. It's not driven about CD sales like it was in the past or the album sales. It's not even driven by that. You have your streaming, you have your merch, you have your live shows, you have so many different opportunities. And then when you have social media and you're building that platform, then that's another form of income, a stream of income that's coming in because once you get over a certain amount of, followers and you're doing everything you need to do on that, you get that money income too. And, you brought up TikTok. I would say TikTok, between TikTok and Instagram, TikTok is still the driving force, the driving platform for music artists. And then when you're releasing your music, I mean, they have TikTok radio. Your music is automatically is going to go up there. So why not get up there and promote, and
Right.
do your thing? Yeah.
Yeah, and making sure that you're getting the most out of each release too, as far as what you're doing in distro, making sure it's going to all those
Yeah.
platforms,
Hmm.
making sure you're submitting for opportunities and making that pitch compelling. So when the people who review for the editorial playlists, get your submission, that it's not just like, I'm a singer songwriter from anywhere USA. Like, make yourself stand out, tell your story. Why is this song the one out of all the millions of songs that they come across over the years? Like, why is this the one that should
Yeah.
get placement, that should be heard by more people? Like, working on
Mhm.
telling your story is so important, such an underrated part of this still, this artist climb that, so many people are on.
Mhm. And story sells, and that's one of the things, like as a business owner, um, it's good to, if you have a story, you lead with that story, It's the same thing with the music artist. A lot of times when you're thinking outside the box, this is whole marketing part of it. When you're thinking like a business owner, you think outside the box. You can attach yourself to other causes. If your story is, maybe you were homeless and you came out of that and you went into, now you're this big artist and everything. What type of story is attached to that? You can put a cause to it. So anything that's going to bring you visibility, the greater the visibility, the greater the opportunity. And, and that's where you get out of that creative process and thinking to more of a entrepreneurship process, and just say, okay, how can I drive these results? How can I get the return on my investment? And your investment is everything that you're putting out. It is your time, it is your money, it is yourself, your image. You want to get that back somehow. So, and if your whole goal is to get signed by a label, I mean, those opportunities are still there too, but you still have more power at hand when you just stay as an independent music artist and just really just do the thing.
So much powerful insight. Again, make sure you all get the book Beyond the Music, a Music Artist Entrepreneur Guide, because based on this conversation, there's so much can't miss stuff in there, that you're going to want to dive into. But also another important topic is mental health, because as you're managing all these things, right, it can be very tough to keep in balance, between business and personal. Make sure your cup stays full. And you have another book, your latest book, The Ugly Truth About Entrepreneurship, Keys to Managing Mental Wellness Out.
Yeah.
And it's so, I think, under addressed still. We're getting better at it in society, but still in today's hustle culture, where you have a lot of gurus online telling you to crush it 24/7, mental health tends to go by the wayside a bit. So for you, what inspired you to write this book? And what made now the right time for this message in your estimation?
Yeah, so for me, it's my compelling story of what I went through, my experience. So I share my story um, with the pandemic. So it's like my pandemic recovery story. Prior to the pandemic, I was full-time entrepreneurship, heavy in my event production world, government contracting and everything, scaling, thriving actually. And then the pandemic happened and just knocked my business down. It shut down the event industry, and I had to think about what I wanted to do next. And when I was going through that, I kind of went inward and did this whole self-discovery and, going through the emotions of things. And so I did, at the time, I didn't think I was going to write a book, but I decided to relaunch my business in December 2021. And when I did, I said, okay, I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to have a personal brand that's going to lead my business, because events was still kind of shaky. We had virtual, yes, but live events, they was coming along. And when I did that, I became the speaker. I showed up as a business strategist, and just went through the whole realm with the speaking world and showing up in that way. I had opportunity to speak in Paris, and I, was going to talk about mental health and entrepreneurship. And I made sure I wrote the book before that, because I was leveling up, and I said, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and just be vulnerable with this story and come out and talk about it. But there are lessons that I learned during that time frame, and I have those keys, and it's like, self-care practices, self-love, how to operate within your own capacity, knowing when to say no. And a lot of times, even though it's like broad for entrepreneurs, but since we're talking about music artists as entrepreneurs today, um, one of the things in mental health with even music artists, like if you're bogged down and burnt out, it will affect your creativity. If you are, you work, most of the artists are working, you're working, some of them have families and everything, and some things just don't go right in your life. And you have this next project to write. Are you going to write that project as fast as you would? So it does affect you. Anything that's going to affect your belief system, your mental capacity, your thoughts, your heart, even how you feel, it will have an effect. So this book can also serve you because, like I said, it has the keys of knowing your capacity, helping you to even set up systems for your business, because it is for entrepreneurs. So that's another way. When you have automations, if you have teams, you start to outsource certain things instead of taking it on yourself. You're showing yourself more love because you're giving yourself more space to have time for yourself, have time, even if it's just to sit down for an hour or two and just think on what you're going to do for the next day. Um, it's so important. And I know, like for myself, I was that type of person that just kept running, running, running. I was working with this. I had at the time before the pandemic, I was working before I was a full-time entrepreneur. I was working a 9 to 5. I was managing 2 independent music artists. I even was having events being produced for my business. And I went to school. I was in school. So with a daughter. So I was doing all those things and it was natural for me. It felt natural for me. And I didn't realize how burnt out I was until I was sat down during the pandemic. And when I felt that release of those burdens, that's when I knew, okay, I have to hold on to this. This is the lesson that I've learned. I didn't realize I was that burnt out. I was numb to the burnout. That's why I kept going. And, it's just things that you want to set in place for yourself. Prioritizing self-care is the biggest one, biggest key in the book as well.
Mhm.
Look at how you can prioritize that. So that's how I got the book. And, I just said, you know what, since I'm showing up in this way, let me keep it going. And I got the book and it's been phenomenal for so many people right now.
Mhm. So how do you, because you've got so much going on, you have so many different projects. What does self-care look like to you and how has that evolved,
Mhm.
pre-pandemic to post-pandemic?
Oh my gosh, I definitely prioritize it. I have my work schedule. I do, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays is all work. I try to get things done throughout the week. When the weekend comes, that is my time. Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays is my gym time. So I'll cut things off by a certain time. So I go to the gym and just relax.
Yep.
Um, it's just making sure I have my own hours that I cut off. Like I have my work hours. And also it's just making time for yourself. Like if I have like a family engagement or something, I'm not gonna say, oh, I can't do it because I'm just so bogged down. No, I'm gonna take that time and just relax and just enjoy me and just go inside, join my family, join a good meal and anything like that. But on top of it is time management too, because you want to make sure you stay on top of your projects, that nothing falls behind. And having a good process. I do have interns that work with me as well, so they take on some of the tasks that I have, and the more I outsource to good people that are really good and capable, then the more the harmonious part of things continue to flow through. But yeah, that's how I stay on top of everything. Like I said, I have the podcast, I have speaking opportunities. I try not to I stay on that schedule. My calendar is always full, but I always try to make sure nothing is going to take a lot of my time in one day. So
Right.
that's how I handle it.
Yeah, yeah, being efficient and yeah, making sure that you leave yourself those opportunities to go refill your cup. That was something
Yes.
for me like became so important over the past couple of years is like make sure you take the time to remember what you do it for. Because like if you just work all the time and you don't, and we were talking before we started the show, I'm kind of in this mode of work all the time and trying to put this back into balance right now. But like, you are going to burn out and you're not going to have anything to give after a while to what you're doing, to the people you care about, and, keeping that in balance so that one kind of feeds the other. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like, we can work hard, love what we do, and have a lot of different projects, but it's just one part of who we are, right?
Yeah.
There's this whole other life, there's this whole other side to all of us, to keep in balance. And if we don't keep that in balance and we don't work on that as well as what we're doing in business, it's going to feel out of balance and it's going to burn you out and it's going to lead to negative repercussions in one way or another in your life.
Yeah, definitely. Like one of the things I'm balancing out this year, like I'm a mom, so I am technically a mompreneur, and my daughter's getting married in May, and
Congratulations.
so thank you. So it's like, okay, I can't be looking at a speaking engagement all over in Dubai somewhere when I know I need to be here. So I'm carefully looking at my schedule with knowing her date is coming up, bridal showers and everything, because that's a whole different thing I have to deal with if I miss out on something. So I have to keep my family unit in line too. And so yeah, you it's all about balance. When you have that balance, I know I heard somebody say they don't like balance because they look at it as a scale. But when you think about a scale being balanced, it's even. It's not going to go up, not going to go down. When you have that balance there and you're harmonious with everything around you, then it's going to flow. It's going to flow within that ecosystem kinetically. And when it does, then you're doing all the right things. You have all the right pieces in place. But one slip up, I have to be, we're human. One slip up can throw things off, if you double book something or anything of that nature. So you always want to just stay attent to what you're doing. Another good key is to say no, know when to say no, know when to step back. At the end of the year in December, I had my deadline. I wasn't scheduling any more meetings, no nothing after a certain date because I needed those 2 weeks to kind of just refresh myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was okay with that. It's like sometimes you have to be comfortable with saying no.
Mm-hmm.
An opportunity that's there, it's going to be there next time if it's really for you. And just hold on to that. So a lot of people don't like to say no to things, but that's a part of self-care.
Mm-hmm. Boundaries, setting
Yeah.
boundaries and holding to them, setting them in a healthy way, of course, but like
Mhm.
you have to, yeah. And I think as you go, like you gain a better understanding of, what is for you, what's not for you. And it becomes easier to set those boundaries. I find as I get older, I kind of, like I, I don't care as much as, oh, well, what if this cost me something? What if this, what if this person doesn't like me because of that, because I said no to this opportunity? It's like, well, then it wasn't for me in the first place,
Yeah.
and there's that understanding. I think when we're starting out, it's so easy to just say yes to everything because we're trying to get our foot in the door. We're trying to get our name out there,
Yeah.
and that's something, for me over the past year, it's like things that I absolutely would have said yes to back in like 2019. I'm like, absolutely not. That makes no sense, because it just doesn't serve where you are sometimes too. Like, and just
Mhm.
understanding that, as you go, you gain this better understanding of yourself, of, what you're trying to build and how everything fits into that and fits with you personally.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. And then when you're self-aware with all of that, then you'll know it's easy to make sure those things are put in place. And even for music artists, because like you had a good point there when you're starting out. As artists start out, they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, gotta do that, gotta be here, gotta be there, and it's good that you have that mindset, but at the same time, have a strategy with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things I feel like a lot of music artists don't really, have. And I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus or anything, what I'm saying, but if you are strategic about what you're doing, things fall in place a little bit more easier.
Yeah.
And then, but when you're thinking like that, it does work. So, but a lot of artists, they don't, they just create and go,
Yeah.
create, release and go, and deal with the typical parts that they know
Yeah.
with music business. And then they realize, later that it's too much, they bit off too much and they get you.
Right. And that ready, fire, aim thing, I think, does help kind of kickstart things in the very beginning. But after a while,
Yeah.
you have to refine it, or you run the risk of being on the merry-go-round. And you run the risk of, I think, you're just like becoming that person that everyone expects to just say yes to everything,
Mhm.
and that'll empty your cup just as fast as anything else, is like just being that person like, oh yeah, they'll do it, and like just having that expectation and continuing to say yes, even if it doesn't feel like it makes sense, so
Mhm.
there is that boundary setting that does of course need to take place.
Yeah.
I love everything we're talking about here. We have a few minutes left and, a few more questions to wrap up here. First of all, people will have the opportunity to learn even more from you on Wednesday, February 15th. You are a part of our first ever virtual panel at Underground Music Collective, succeeding as a Black entrepreneur in the music industry. And
Mhm.
it's going to be, I mean, it's going to be such a great, insightful, educational event. Of course, we're doing this in commemoration of Black History Month. And we have some amazing panelists, to join us to talk about their experiences, the challenges, how they've overcome them, and what lessons they've learned. And so without giving too much away, because we want people to, of course, tune in, and get the good stuff from the panel. What can people expect? What are some things that you're looking forward to sharing with us?
I'm just looking forward to share. I'm an open book, so I'm looking forward to share whatever it is they need to know when it comes down to how to connect the dots between being an artist in the music industry and how to really bring in the business side of it. And then also touch on some other music, because I do have a lot of music business experience as well, and just being able to connect the dots. So I love being able to say, look, this is who you are, this is the business, the music business. Let's go ahead and merge it together and just make it on fire for yourself. And so that's what I'm looking to share, because it's like the topic, the name of the book, it goes beyond the music. And it's so much more to it than just your music.
Absolutely. Well, we're looking forward to that panel again, Wednesday, February 15th. It's free to attend from anywhere in the world, virtual. We're going to be blasting that out on Eventbrite. The information, of course, will be in the description of this episode, as well as all over all things Underground Music Collective and the Quinn Spinn, because why not? But Sacha, I want to thank you so much for joining us. A couple questions left to wrap up. First of all, after the panel, the book's out. Surely you're keeping busy on a number of projects. What does the rest of 2023 hold for you?
Oh my goodness. 2023 has a lot of great things. I have a big event in the DR that I'm planning. I share this with you. I just got my license for a TED Talk. So I'll be organizing TED in my area.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And just being able to make more impact in the world and change business owners' lives one day at a time. So that's all for me.
Looking forward
Right.
to it. And if people want to learn more about all of the things that you're doing and SWI and just all these projects, the books, where can they learn more about you online?
Yeah, definitely go to my website. It's www.swimgtgroup.com. All my social links are attached to it. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter. I'm everywhere. Definitely follow me because I do a lot of my updates on Facebook and Instagram. But just for the sake of time, yeah, just go to my website, just link up with me.
All right, Sacha, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Same here. We'll do it again. So there you have it, folks. Sacha Walton of SWI Management Group joining us here on the Quinn Spinn. I hope you got a lot out of that conversation. I know I did. And if you want more from the Quinn Spinn, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, Stitcher, YouTube, and more. New episodes dropping every Thursday and maybe a little more often from here on out. Keep an eye and ear posted on that. We've got a lot of great stuff coming up here in 2023. I'm super excited about it. You can also learn more about the show and follow our journey on Instagram at Quinn Spinn Official. Of course, that's 2 N's in Quinn, 2 N's in Spin, and you can learn more about the show at Underground Music Collective, our central hub for all things independent music, creativity, entrepreneurship, community, and more. UMC's on all the socials as well. That's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. Follow the UMC 20 playlist on Spotify, 20 fresh tracks every Tuesday, plus the latest episode of your favorite podcast, being this one, of course. And I also want to encourage you, Sacha, if you enjoyed hearing what Sacha had to say today, you're really going to enjoy on February 15th. We are hosting our first ever virtual panel. Not editing that. We keep it real here. The panel is called Succeeding as a Black Entrepreneur in the Music Industry. Again, Wednesday, February 15th, 6 p.m. Central. Sacha joins Sydney Eugene from LearnMBE.com, Vince Ashton and Lord Goldie, Brandy Sims, of course, of Branding PR, going to be moderating that for us. And we are going to get all kinds of incredible insight into the journeys of these creatives on that panel. Learn more about that at Underground Music Collective. Also, NashLive.live. We've got our first show of the year tomorrow if you're listening to this on premiere day. Friday, February 10th, the Cobra in Nashville. We have Chelsea Jett, Rhea Barker, and Arrayas. I got to hear some rehearsals here this week, and we have quite a show for you. It is a double release show. Both Rhea and Arrayas have new music / visuals coming out on Friday on the day of the show. NashLive.live, and of course the info's at UMC as well. Revel 9's All I Become, going to take us out just like it brought us in, the end instead of the beginning. I'll see you next time. Grab some muffins on the way out.